I'm murdered. Yeah, yeah. Coming up next on Mental Health Matters with Marty, join me and Don Daniels as we discuss the linkage between anxiety and acid reflux. Stay tuned. What's up, everybody? Hey, welcome again to another edition of Mental Health Matters with Marty here on Facebook Live and YouTube Live as well. And we are so glad that you are joining us. Yes, it's me, Martina Sellers, your mental health hygienist, telling you to stop secretly suffering in silence in the shadow of shame. But y'all know how we do it here. We got to speak up, speak out in order that we might live and enjoy our lives. Hope that you are doing well out there. We're having another amazing day out here in Southern California where it is, yes, y'all, we keep fighting these triple digits, but it is still where the sun is always shining. So as you can see, we are still in this amazing weather, but hope that you are doing well. Listen, I'm so excited about today's show, but let me remind you, as always, Mental Health Matters with Marty, it is designed to be a supplement for your mental health awareness and your mental health journey. We are not a substitute for therapy. We are not a substitute for anything else, but we are a supplement to help you along so that you can have your best life and have the best life possible. That's why I have it speak up, speak out, and live. Yes, this shirt too is available at mentalhealthmarty.com. So your mental health journey to support you along the way. But if you're experiencing any type of psychiatric or medical emergency, please go to your nearest urgent care or dial 911. How do you get engaged and involved in the discussion here? We would love your questions. How do I get involved? You get involved by going to the Mental Health Matters with Marty Facebook page or Marcel Media YouTube page, and that's how your comments are posted. So if you're on my personal page or on Marcel Consulting, we will not see your comments. And so therefore, no, I am not ignoring you. However, we want you to be engaged in this amazing, amazing discussion today. So please jump on to either my Mental Health Matters with Marty page or on Marcel Media page. We'll keep flashing this up every now and again to remind you, please, please, please do that, engage. Let us know that you are out there. Let us know that you are paying attention. And please like and share this video because we have so many and important information to share with you today. So I am so excited about our guest today because how I cured my silent reflux, understanding the root causes and ways to heal. Too many have been secretly suffering in silence and the shadow of shame because of acid reflux, because of IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, because of other things that have been causing our stomach not to settle, maybe indigestion, horrible indigestion, not being able to just get along and function in a normal life. And too often we don't realize the effect of anxiety and how it affects us. What's up, Joseph? Yes, you are back in the house and watching from that's right, sunny, beautiful California. Yes, hope La La Land out there in LA is treating you well, Joseph. Please like and share this to other people. Tell them to jump on and get involved. But we don't realize how bad anxiety can and does affect not only our mental health and wellness, but our physical health and wellness as well. I say it this way so often: anxiety will enter the body one way, but it's got to leave another if we don't do the proper things, such as grounding, such as breathing exercises, such as other things that's going to help us to rid that anxiety out of our mind and out of our body. However, when we hold on to anxiety, hear me when I say this, when we hold on to anxiety and not release it, it does affect us because it affects the entire body. It's going to affect us with possible headaches. It's going to affect us with not being able to sleep well. It's going to affect us in our weight gain, in our weight loss, in our appetites, in our anxiety, in our acid reflux, in so many other ways. And so we have to make sure that we are not holding on to the anxieties of life that affect us day in and day out. And we also have to be aware of those various microaggressions that come at us all the time as well. Yes, we get it. 2020 was a difficult year, especially for the Black man, because we had to watch so much police brutality. We watched so many that have died at the hands that did not have to die. And all of that is still creates anxiety. It creates trauma. It creates PTSD. It creates so many other things. And we are still struggling with how to properly release that. Now we have taken the vaccination, and now a different variant is coming about, and we don't know to send our kids to school, not to send them to school, to have them wear masks, not to have them wear masks. I always say err on the side of caution, and I'm going to say it, y'all. Yes, continue to wear your mask. We here at Mental Health Matters with Marty, listen, we are not the CDC, but we do support what the CDC has to tell us in order to live our best lives. So yes, I have my mask. I have it on a lot all the time. I pull it over this gray beard, and we do what we got to do, because there's some cray folk out there, and I don't even know how to straighten this out. Yes, and and get that on. But I am so excited, y'all. And I felt this so important for us to really deal with this matter and this whole notion of anxiety and how it has a negative effect on us. So I was so glad when a dear friend of mine, she had him on her show. And listen, I was so intrigued by it that I reached out to Don. I said, Don, I got to have you on the show. And he so graciously agreed to come on. Daryl, do we have the graphic of his book, please, that we want to show up? Again, I want to introduce to you none other than Don himself, who has written this amazing book, How I Cured My Silent Reflux, Don Daniels. And we definitely want to talk to him today. So for the very first time, let's give him a warm welcome for the Mental Health Matters with Marty show, none other than author and silent reflux advocate himself, Don Daniel. Don, welcome to the show, my brother. Yes.
Thank you, Marty. Glad to be with you.
Man, glad to be that you're here with us as well. Okay, you have this amazing book, and like I said, I start digging into this, and it was mind blowing in so many ways. Yes, Ladon, I'm not mad at you, man. Keep wearing your mask. Keep wearing your mask. Ladon is an amazing brother out of Detroit who shared with us about a month ago how he suffered a stroke, and how we as Black men, we don't like going to the doctors or doing these other things. So I'm glad that you have written this book for us to share. Talk to us, Don, and talk to us who you are since you're with us for the first time, and what you do and what prompted you to share all this amazing stuff that you're sharing with us in your book.
Yeah, absolutely. First off, Don Daniels. First way I would introduce myself is as a husband. 15 years. I've got three amazing children, ages 12, turning 10 and 8 this year. I can see three of them here. But
Wow.
they, along with my wife,
Beautiful.
are absolutely my world. And I'll tell
Yes.
you, I wrote this book after dealing with acid reflux personally for 15 years. And I
Wow.
suffered escalating forms of the disease. It kind of starts out with indigestion, and then it goes from
Mm-hmm.
there into acid reflux, and then GERD. And silent
Mm-hmm.
reflux is one of the more advanced versions of the
Right,
disease.
right.
But after dealing with the 15 years, going through all the right things, I went to the doctor, I got the
Mm-hmm.
recommended medications, I did all that stuff. Things just got worse.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found a natural way to resolve my reflux. And after that, I just realized I had to do my part to rewrite the
Right.
narrative on this disease.
Love that. You talk about redoing your part in rewriting the narrative. What are some of the misconceptions? Mr. Davis, yes, keep wearing a mask, cover the beard. Watch it, Thomas. Don't make me have to come to DC and hurt you, my brother. I love you, but I will hurt you. Another one of the therapist, my accountability partner, man. Uh, but what is the current, or what was the narrative when you were researching this whole thing about acid reflux and what that has done to us, to our bodies and everything? What was the narrative then?
Yeah, I'm sure just as in mental health, there's a lot of information out there, and you can Google to your
Yes.
heart's content. You will find a lot of good stuff, and you'll find a whole lot of bad stuff.
Bad stuff. Yes.
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that the mainstream medications that you get for reflux are helpful.
Mm.
Now, they do mitigate
Hmm.
symptoms, but what you don't understand necessarily is that they exacerbate the issues worse underneath. And over
Wow.
time, it'll sort of deepen your reflux, deepen your gut health issues, and you
Wow.
start to suffer these escalating forms of the disease. As I think one of the other big misconceptions is logical.
Mm.
People feel acid reflux because of acidity in their stomach. But
Hmm.
what they believe is that reflux is due to high acidity, like they're producing too much acidity. And
Yes.
therefore, it's suppressed by things like antacids, and it'll cause that to go down. Well, then they make the logical leap that high acidity must be bad. It's
Hmm.
actually quite the opposite. Low acidity is bad, and actually, low acidity is one of the major causes of reflux. So it's counterintuitive, but
Okay.
those are two, really big misconceptions about the disease.
Right, right. I want to read a part of the passage from your book that in your prologue that stood out to me. Look, I'm getting a little older. Shut up, Thomas. I got to put on my reading glasses here. Don't you say anything, Dara. My symptoms ultimately reached a level that was no longer manageable by medication. My nose, throat, and mouth were continuously under siege by a seemingly endless stream of mucus. The roof of my mouth, the cheeks and lips were constantly on fire. I woke up each morning to headaches and spending my days finding my way through the dense uh, cloud of brain fog. Sometimes I struggled to follow the thread of conversations, presentations, movie plots, etc. I struggled to stay awake when driving on long road trips, even needing to start early in the day to ensure the safe passage of my young family. It says my growing social anxiety, increasingly difficulty following conversations and articulating my thoughts were a constant challenge. I struggled with spontaneous anxiety attacks where I broke into full body sweats as if I was playing a rigorous game of basketball in 100-degree weather. I think a lot of times we don't understand the symptomologies that come along with this. And I know you shared some of your symptomologies, but what are some other common symptomologies that we overlook, or that we just say, oh, I just need some Tums, or I'll drink a ginger ale, or drink some baking soda water. Now, those of us with high blood pressure, that's trying to kill us with all that baking soda.
Yeah.
We start to use
Yeah.
remedies that we believe that culturally that, oh, it ain't nothing. You're fine. What were
Yeah,
some of
you're
the other
exactly right.
symptoms? Yeah.
There is a whole host of warning signals that you'll get
Hmm.
from acid reflux. So one of the first is sort of indigestion, and that can express in many different ways. You can have kind of a feeling of something caught your throat. That's
Hmm.
called a globus sensation. You can get a little bit of sort of nocturnal regurgitation. You can have a
Yes.
sour taste in your mouth. You can have
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of a upset stomach. You can have the
Yes.
classic heartburn. You can
Mm-hmm.
have post nasal drip. You can have an imbalance in your mouth and start to see things like white spots.
Oh,
And those
wow.
are just the physical maladies that you may pick up.
Right.
But just depending on how the disease expresses, and there's many different ways, these are all
Yes.
indications that you've got a sort of underlying gut health issue, which can have
Mm.
a whole host of ramifications.
Yes, it's so true because I had a dear friend of mine who was a professional singer, and she just went hoarse. She couldn't sing anything. She thought she was going. She thought she had her tonsils and everything, and then she came right. It was right before a big show we were doing, and she had to. And she goes, "I figured out my problem." I said, "Whoa, what was it?" Acid reflux. She goes, "The doctor gave
Yeah,
me some pills, and within literally less than a week." Her voice was, it wasn't back to where it was, but it, because it was still getting back to normal. But she goes, I had to just stop eating all the spicy foods, drink more water, kind of balance that out. But that was the regimen the doctor gave her. But it was acid reflux. And I was just shocked. I'm like, acid reflux can have that much effect on us that can really, for those who are singers or to take away your voice. And she goes, yeah, I didn't know either. Absolutely amazing.
yeah. In fact,
Um,
that was one of the symptoms I struggled with the most. Is anytime I ate something, I would get
right.
this sort of raspiness in my voice, and it would last
Okay.
for hours. It can express as a respiratory issue. Actually, the
Yes.
underlying health gut health issues can express themselves as allergies,
Mm.
asthma. It gets picked up as all kinds of other things. Celiac disease,
Mhm,
diabetes is
mhm,
now starting to show links. So there's a
mhm,
whole host of sort of autoimmune types of diseases that actually have an underlying gut health issue
mhm,
that's now being recognized, where
mhm.
formerly a lot of those were thought as sort of metabolic issues.
Yes. So y'all go get your guts checked out. Really go to the doctor and get all that checked out because it does have now that we're in it and we have it, a lot of us then begin to stress out. So now our anxiety even goes through the roof. If we already had great anxiety prior to, now it's even escalating, which was once a 10, now our anxiety is on 100. And now I can't imagine. Tell us about this journey that you're on for 15 years. You were on this journey thinking it was one thing, but discovering it was something totally different. And all the different, maybe the mental health things that you went through and the psychological dynamics that you went through during those 15 years.
Yeah, that was interesting. So I can now look back in perfect hindsight. I started
Hmm.
taking the medications pretty shortly after I developed what I thought was thrush in my mouth, where I started getting this sort of
Right.
white film in my mouth
Film.
that I didn't
Hmm.
really realize that having mild anxiety. At the same time, I was changing my job, so I thought I was more
Okay.
stressed due to increased responsibility and that sort of thing.
Right.
And that trend didn't stop over that 15 years. I got more and more responsibility,
Hmm.
and so I thought it was increasing anxiety because of that. I started having issues with my memory. It was a
Hmm.
constant joke with my kids. Dad doesn't remember, had difficulties concentrating on things, was constantly stressed out. And all these
Hmm.
sort of things sort of reinforced each other. And I didn't really realize that there was a
Yeah.
direct correlation between that I was dealing with, the memory issues, the behavioral issues, the anxiety, the depression, and acid reflux, but they are directly correlated.
Yeah. They definitely are. They definitely record. So you're talking about how and can you go some more even about because I want people to really and I'm honing in because I want people to really look at their lives differently if they're having this could it be related to a lot of stress, anxiety, all these other things, and how do we go about to properly handle that? And you talked about how your children would laugh and to be like, hey, dad doesn't remember anything. How did it affect even your family relationship and your marital relationship? Because anxiety, stress does affect all areas of our lives. And it just doesn't affect us, but it affects everyone that's involved with you as well. So how was that for you
Yeah.
as it now you became the joke?
I struggled in social situations, any situation, one on one, big groups. I just, I had this big fear that I was not going to be able to keep track of what was being said, be able to articulate
Right,
myself well. And I was constantly battling, trying not to break out in a cold sweat, right? So that's what's on my
right.
mind, not how can I connect with this other person. Um, you know, One of the issues that you have to be aware of is that, particularly in the Western world, upwards
Hmm.
of 20% of people have some indigestion issue on a regular basis. And if it stays at that level, that's perfectly fine. But if this is a warning signal and if it continues to exacerbate, you may find yourself dealing with these issues, and they can start to express in behavioral, mental,
Right.
anxiety, and these other issues without you fully having the expression of the underlying indigestion and gut health type of
Mm-hmm.
physical ailments. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to kind
Mm-hmm.
of other causes. There's a whole mechanism behind this and why these
Mm-hmm.
things express the way they do that I'd love to talk about at some point as well.
Yes, yes. Let's go right into that. Since you're there, let's jump right into it, and some of the effects and the mechanisms. Go right ahead.
Yeah, so one of the things that really blew my mind. So, I found a natural remedy because a friend of mine just picked up on the fact that I was, you know, twiddling my fingers, and she was like, "Well, what are you doing?"
Oh,
I was like, "Well, my fingers
okay.
tingle every now and then."
Tingle.
And she's like, "Really?" She's like, "Really? What about your toes or your mouth or anything like that?" I was like, my toes are fine. They don't. My lips, they do tingle. She
Mm-hmm.
said, "Do you have acid reflux?" And my mind was just blown. I'm like, "What do you mean? Do I have acid reflux? That has nothing
Right,
to do
right.
with like what do you mean?" She's like, "Well, that's a common side effect, a B12 deficiency,
Wow.
right, which is one of three major common side effects of acid reflux and gut health issues." So that started me
Okay.
down this rabbit path of really researching and trying to understand this a little bit more. So I stumbled on a few things that I thought that I could do to resolve my reflux. They sure enough worked. I
Uh-huh.
started the acidrefluxguy.com and all this. But as I began to research it more, the thing that really blew my mind is that there's this whole new field of medicine that's really sprung up over the last 20 years. It's the thing that led
Okay.
to the whole probiotic industry, right?
Yes,
We hear it
yes,
everywhere. It's in our yogurt.
yes.
It's, buy it
It's
here. It's in
everywhere. Yeah.
exercise bars and all this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's behind that is a recognition that there's about 2 to 3 pounds of viruses, fungus, bacteria that are known as your microbiome, that are your sort of a whole ecosystem that work with your
Mm-hmm.
body symbiotically when everything is working correctly,
Right.
to do things like synthesize hormones, protect your
Yes.
immune function, help with digestion, etc. And all this needs to work correctly in order for you to function correctly as a human being. There's something
Mm-hmm.
like 100 trillion of these bacteria in your body, thousands
Oh,
of
wow.
species, 7 to 9,000 strains of these species. And when these things are wrong, that's when you start to have expressions of things like diabetes,
Mm-hmm.
Parkinson's,
Mm-hmm.
ADHD, IBS, IBD, celiac disease, autoimmune diseases, asthma, allergies, thyroid dysfunction. It
Mm-hmm.
can lead to things like cancer. And so now we're starting to see all these links to these very significant diseases created functionally or individually
Mm-hmm.
that have a
Mm-hmm.
direct link to gut health.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've got to have all that in balance to keep your immune function working correctly, keep your digestion working correctly. And in particular, when you have certain bacteria out of balance, remember they work
Mm-hmm.
these symbiotically.
Uh-oh.
Your
Yes.
body works with these bacteria to produce hormones like serotonin, which are
Yes.
very important for
Yes.
things like happiness,
There. Yes.
melatonin, which are really important for things
Yes.
like sleep,
Yes.
dopamine for motivation. And
Yes.
without the right bacteria functioning in concert with your body, these hormones are not produced. And so,
Yep.
what you may think is purely cognitive may have a direct root in the physical dysbiosis of the gut.
Totally agree with that. Daryl, can you put up that last comment from Anthony Evans there? Anthony Tompkins said, drinking mint tea and turmeric tea definitely has helped him greatly. What? How are you about the various teas? And I know because we're definitely moving to a more holistic society and trying to do things because of sometimes the side effects of sometimes some of the meds that we take. With that, especially in the area of the psychotropic meds, I'm all about trying to do holistic approaches, but I'm not saying, hey, but we still need to go to the doctor and make sure we're still regulated because I don't have an MD, so I'm not going to be held liable for that. But what about some of the teas and right? Don, I appreciate this because this is helping me out tremendously as I'm about 50% through this, and I'm looking at this going, oh my god, this is good, this is good. It made me kind of think through my whole body because I take some probiotics on a daily basis, but I'm just going, you know. But what do you think about some of the natural remedies, such as teas and some of these other things? I know you talked about the B12. What are from
Yep.
your research and experience personally that you've had?
Yeah, it's funny. I grew up in a medical household. My dad's a doctor. I've got two sisters that are nurses. And so for most of my life, it was all about Western medicine.
Right.
These 15 years of working with Western medicine to try to deal with my reflux and ultimately getting worse, in some ways
Uh-huh.
because of the medications. It sort of opened my
Right.
mind. I'm fully in the camp of let's work with Western medicine to do what needs to be done, but I'm a huge fan of holistic approaches and
Yes.
natural approaches, as you might imagine, having turned this thing around. I love the
Mm-hmm.
comment there around turmeric. Turmeric is a
Mm-hmm.
known anti-inflammatory, and
Yes.
inflammation in particular is a huge risk factor for so many things. So
Mm-hmm.
turmeric is a great one. Tea itself is sort of double-edged, though, so you have to be careful. Things like caffeine can
Yes.
cause issues with
Agitated.
underlying uh, risk factors to reflux and gut health issues. So you got to make sure that you're kind of doing it right.
Mm-hmm.
Decaffeinated, um, herbal, things like
Mm-hmm.
turmeric, which are anti-inflammatory. So glad to see that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes. I try to keep it in my daily routine now of my turmeric and all that. But as we do that, then you got a whole fistful of holistic medicines, herbs, and then like I don't know if that's causing all that too. So I'm always finding that balance because especially during COVID, and
All
I
right.
I actually got COVID, and
Oh man,
so then yeah, I'd never want to do that again. I'll pass. It's COVID is real. It's not made up.
not a joke.
And it's not a joke. For 2 weeks, that's the sickest I've ever been in my life. I never want to do that. Now, thank God I didn't have to go to the hospital. But during that time, I was trying to take every holistic thing: zinc, turmeric, vitamin D, B's, B12, B10. It didn't matter. Vitamin C, just to try and get my body back to a
Mhm.
healthy state. And then exercise as well.
Yeah, I love both of those comments. In fact, two of the best things that you can do to avoid any disease, not necessarily that it's going to keep you from contracting something, but to be in the
Right, right.
best, most robust state to handle it, is to have your gut health in order. Your
Yeah.
gastrointestinal system is the largest exposure you have to the outside world. If you were to unravel all of it, it would
Mm,
cover half of a badminton court. You're putting
right. Wow.
foods, you're getting in contact with people, all that goes directly into the largest
Hmm.
exposure to your immune system as well. 70% of your immune system is in your gut, right? So you
Wow.
got to kind of keep that in good order. And your microbiome plays a direct role in working with your immune system to keep out harmful pathogens and things along those lines.
Hmm.
And I love your comment around exercise and movement. All that engages the peristalsis effect, which will cause things to keep moving through your system.
Yes.
So,
Especially those people Thomas, I know fitness does matter. I would see you in that 24-hour fitness, one of them fitness places with the purple one, in there early in the morning. So yes, but it's so cool. It's true, and one of the things that really affected us as a culture, and as a race has been definitely that. There were definitely some disproportionate numbers about COVID because of our health and wellness. We know that there was a lot of comorbidities that were affecting us as well. Planet Fitness, that's right, Planet Fitness. In the research you have done, do you find that is the case? Is there a higher because of various comorbidities in various cultures of color that maybe affect our gut health more so than others, and whether it's food we eat, you definitely had talked about diabetes and those other things. How do those relate in those regards to a lot of the acid reflux and so forth as well in the studies that you have done?
yeah, one of the things that our culture in particular needs to take care of is, the foods that we're putting in our body. As much as
Hmm.
we're eating processed foods, as much as we're eating refined food, refined sugars, all those things can put a tremendous amount of stress on our digestive system. Fried
Yes.
foods, all those will really put us in a tailspin. Now, your body is extremely resilient; it can handle that type of thing. But if you stack
Right.
that on with a number of other risk factors, at some point you're going to hit a tipping factor and sort of get yourself into these gut health issues.
It can
If you look
handle
at
a
it sort of
healthy.
epidemiology,
Mhm. Go ahead. Go ahead. You're fine.
if you look at it from an epidemiological standpoint, we're actually better off. The most likely person from epidemiology standpoint to contract reflux is a older white woman that's a little bit larger. So uh, in that respect, being African American keeps you out of that risk factor.
Okay. Well, I don't know how many slightly older, larger, elderly white women we have that listens to the show, but hey, you might have the least chance of getting acid reflux than someone else. I don't know. I don't. Yes. So I want to go back to you were talking about the whole anxiety, looking at all the pressures of life. I think that oftentimes we don't examine life's pressures, what that looks like, and how that does affect us. I love this. Ladon was saying, my doctor put me on a Mediterranean diet.
Mm.
Does do you suggest that? Have you heard that to help out with different things?
Yeah. In fact, that can be one of the best things. I'm a firm believer in food as medicine. If you're
I
eating the
agree.
right things. So Mediterranean diet
Hmm.
is very high in vegetables. One of the best
Yes.
things you can do is eat a ton of vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts, seeds, particularly those that are higher in fiber. Anything
Hmm.
that's colorful, the
Hmm.
purples, the yellows, the oranges, all those will also add antioxidants, which are also great
Hmm.
for sort of breaking up
Hmm.
free radicals. Yep,
So
absolutely.
our plate should be quite colorful. Jonathan, how are you? So I love this. Thank you for your question. And Jonathan, always good to see you, my brother. Says, how can an individual identify the difference between the effects of prescribed medication versus reflux?
Yeah, so this is really interesting. And you have to say, Jonathan, if there's a little bit more to your question here, I'm going to take it as, can you tell the difference between some of the effects of the prescribed reflux medications on the disease
Mm,
versus just maybe what would occur on its own?
right.
I remember very vividly my very first acid reflux consult with my doctor,
Uh huh.
and he told me I'm going to prescribe this Protonix. Actually, he tried to give me a histamine 2 blocker that was later removed because it was carcinogenic and causing cancer in people. So
Oh
thankfully, I
wow.
didn't take that. But he gave me something else
Right.
and told me, your options are take this for the rest of your life or develop throat cancer.
Whoa.
So given those two options, clearly to take that medication. And then he proceeded to tell me this medication should not be taken for longer than 6 weeks at the most, but you'll probably be taking it for the rest of your life. And that's the pattern that I find most people are in.
So see, I
And
just want to make sure I'm hearing you right. So it says, here's your options: take it and be kind of cured and helped out during this, or don't take it and possibly have cancer. However, if you take it, you're going to be on it for the rest of your life. But however, the recommendation is that not be taken more than 6 weeks. That sounds like just like a death sentence. Uh, uh, you know,
yeah, that's right. And
yeah. Go ahead, please.
every doctor that I met with afterwards, I go in and I'm having these increasing forms of reflux, and I describe my whole history and that sort of thing. And we're like, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm
Right,
taking these reflux medications. They cock an eye at me. You are? How long have you been taking this? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? And they go, oh, you shouldn't be taking that longer than, a couple of weeks or 6 to 8 weeks at the
right.
most. And then they tell me, I don't have another option for you. I'm going to double your dose. And this is the pattern, unfortunately, that people kind of find themselves in. Um, one of the things
Wow.
that you can kind of use to help distinguish what might be caused based on natural causes versus the
Okay.
medications themselves
Hmm.
is really just the escalating forms of the disease. If you're just dealing with a little bit of mild indigestion and that sort of thing, and you go for the antacids, the Pepto Bismols, and things like that, and then a week or so later you're finding it's a little bit worse and more frequent,
Hmm.
it's
There's a
the
problem.
medication. And the reason
Yeah.
is it's reducing your acidity, which makes it more easy for harmful bacteria to proliferate out of control, which
Okay.
starts to express inflammatory conditions. It starts to get you into this reflux cycle. And you have more
Hmm.
symptoms, you take more of the medication, it gets worse and it
Hmm.
gets worse and it gets worse. And then you find yourself like me 15 years later with the description that you read, which is just
Wow.
excruciating symptoms.
Yes. Yes. That is so amazing. That just like, okay, well, don't take it. Well, why are you taking it? Well, let's double it. You're like, well, didn't you just have a raised eyebrow when you said I've been taking it for 5, 10 years? And you're like, oh well, let's just double it. It's
Yeah.
it's it's the craziest thing.
I
I
don't
know
blame
from
I don't blame the doctors in this case. They're doing the best that they can with the tools that they've
I
got, right?
yeah, no
But
blame, no shame.
it's the unfortunate pattern. They don't have a good solution
Yes,
for it, and so it's just the
right.
medications.
And so for you exploring and definitely dabbling and looking into some of these, and I love it, some of these Eastern cultural medicines, such as, I keep ginger chews because sometimes that ginger or some ginger whenever I have an upset stomach or something like that, or try to do some of drinking a ginger shot or something. It's almost like the turmeric, if you will. In any other things that you have found that have worked for you outside of the medicine, maybe from years ago?
Yeah, I found, it's interesting. If you don't have any sort of lactose intolerance,
Hmm.
yogurt can actually help calm the symptoms, and it has a benefit of
Okay.
carrying multiple probiotic strains a lot of times. But the key is
Okay.
you want to look for a sugar-free yogurt and maybe add a little bit of fruit
Oh,
into it for flavor. That can help calm symptoms. Really, the last thing you want to do is reach for the medications because they start to worsen your symptoms over time and
yes.
start you kind of down that path. So high fiber is incredibly important. If you can
Hmm.
balance, 70% of your plate with vegetables, you're in a good place because less than 5% of people in the U.S. have anywhere close to the recommended daily value of vegetables and fruits. And I would argue the FDA recommended values are probably wrong by half.
Wow. And it's so true. One of my mentors, he has definitely gone to a vegetarian 100% in that, not drinking a lot of milk or cheese, dairies, and all that. And really going to a lot of fruits, vegetables, like you were saying, the beans and lentils and all of that. Now he has lupus, but has found that because he's done that, it has been definitely helping out lower a lot of his symptoms with that as well. I have to avoid all processed foods. Ladon, you're
Yes.
absolutely right. We definitely have to avoid processed. And we do a lot of consumption of processed foods, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I like to tell people, the best you can, particularly if you're trying to recover, eat real food.
Hmm.
And the way that you do that is you avoid the middle aisles of the grocery store because that has all the processed foods and everything else. If you just stay on the periphery where you've got meat and vegetables, you're in good shape. If you're in the
Oh,
middle,
wow.
you're in trouble.
You
You're in trouble.
see folks going up and down the middle aisle. You're like, process, 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 but go
Yep,
around the
you're in trouble.
outskirts, the edges of it. But you're right, because that's where all your fresh fruits are. That's where your meats and vegetables and those type of things are at. I never thought of it from that way. Wow. Okay, learn something new every day. Unfortunately, I do go up to a couple of those middle aisles, but we're gonna do better. We're gonna do better. Uh, Don, I love it. I do. I do. So what is your current practice now? What tell us how you remain healthy and that some of your changes and life changing drastic changes that you have made, and I'm sure you're having your family follow the close to the same regiments as well. So what do we do in the day if we come to the Daniels household? What would we experience there?
Yeah, it's been interesting. So I've been about a year and a half completely reflux free, and this is going
Wow.
from the brain fog issues, the anxiety issues, the memory issues, the depression issues, then all the physical
Right.
stuff like nightly
Right.
regurgitation, post nasal drip, burning lips and mouth, voice issues. I mean, I was just messed up, right? So it's been a year and a half.
Right.
What we sort of systematically did, I have a very specific set of things that I did to resolve my reflux, which are covered in my book and for free on my website and all that.
Right.
But after that, what I realized is that, in order to have a healthy digestive system, which is going to in turn support healthy immune function and avoid all these other, autoimmune types of diseases, you got to get rid of all the extraneous harmful factors.
Okay.
So one of the really big ones, particularly in the Western diet, is high fructose corn syrup. It is in
Mm-hmm.
everything. I
Everything.
promise you, after you guys get finished listening to this call, go into your pantry, pick up everything from ketchup to bread. It's got high fructose
Mm-hmm.
corn syrup, and these are these highly
Mm-hmm.
refined sugars that are
Mm-hmm.
unnecessary. Like, why does my bread need sugar?
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is this feeds pathogenic bacteria. And again, as you start to stack more of these risk factors up, you start to get yourself
Mm-hmm.
into maybe a state where your body can no longer handle it.
Right.
So we just got rid of all that extraneous stuff. Like if we're going to eat
Wow.
refined sugar, we're going to eat it intentionally. We're not going to eat it as a byproduct of someone stuffing it in my food.
I love
So we got
that.
rid of all that stuff. And there are no sugar versions of everything. You can find a ketchup that doesn't have sugar. You can find a barbecue sauce that
Wow.
doesn't have added sugar. That tastes great, right? You just need to know to look. Even
Uh-huh.
things like the health foods are the worst. So if you go look at your health bars, your high fiber cereal, like all that
Right.
stuff, it's got more sugar than it's got fiber, right? So you just get all that
Wow.
trash out of your life.
And,
There's many
that's how we
oils.
hear it's healthy, it's healthy, it's healthy. Like, no, it's not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the way that you can tell something's healthy is go look
Okay.
for that exact same brand in the UK because the UK doesn't allow that trash in their country. It'll be the
Really?
exact same brand, but they're not
Okay.
allowing all the added, the words that you can't pronounce that are on the ingredient label.
Right,
They
right,
don't do
right,
that. So
right.
they don't have it. Then you probably shouldn't be eating it here. So we got rid of all that stuff.
Uh-huh.
And then we're just really thoughtful about making sure that we're including fiber in our diet every day. We
Yes.
found a good probiotic. So just a number of things, and small changes done over time and being consistent over
Mhm.
time has really rebuilt my gut. And now we're thinking about our kids. Like if I think back to what I
Yes.
was doing as a kid, I was eating tons of candy and all this other
Yep.
stuff, which are fine again until you get out of balance. But I don't want my kids
Hmm.
to get there. I don't want them to ever have to
Right.
deal with what I had to deal with.
Right, right. How are they? Because we always say, "Well, my kids won't eat it. They won't." How are your kids and adapting to a healthier lifestyle of eating more fruits and vegetables and all of that? And was it a struggle for you with helping to educate and changing your kids?
One of the things, a good thing is we had a really good foundation. So, I
Hmm.
mentioned all those things in our pantry.
Hmm.
But on the whole, we ate really good, right? So they're kind of smaller
Hmm.
tweaks, and I get it can be a
Hmm.
challenge for people that maybe making a much more significant change. But one of the things we
Right.
did with our kids is we always told them, okay, you don't have to eat it, but you do have to taste it. You put it in your mouth, chew it, swallow a bite. If you don't like it, fine. If you go through
Okay.
that a few times, they start to develop a taste, right? And our kids
Yes.
eat everything, and so it really
Okay.
wasn't a big problem. We're also able to rationalize with them. They're young. They're turning 8, 10, and 12 this year. But we can say, hey, look, here are
Right.
the reasons we're making this choice, and they're able to follow along.
Yes. Do you find that there is even a difference in their maybe in their attentiveness at school, or even their energy level, or sleeping better, or all those other things? 'Cause, we're quick to label our kids, especially our young boys, as ADHD and all these other things with that. But when you're giving them tons of sugar and caffeine and so many other things, yes, they will be ADHD if that's the case. But we can't blame them. We have to also blame ourselves and and hold ourselves responsible to what we are feeding and exposing our children to. So, do you find that because they are eating a more healthier, balanced meals that are very intentional? That you're finding, and I go here to their, I hate to say their behaviors, but definitely their following through and their cognition at school and some of the other things are sharper in those regards.
Yeah, absolutely. Really well crafted question. I find that they've got consistent energy throughout the day. Sleep is
Mm-hmm.
also very important. It's important for
Mm-hmm.
your gut health as well. But my kids are sharp.
Yeah.
They're really sharp, but we're very intentional about what we
Yes.
put in front of them. Food wise, how we interact with them, the decisions that we make, because all this comes together to make a healthy person.
Yes, I totally agree. I totally agree. I think you're so right because the saying, how we say, well, you are what you eat. And in those regards, what are we eating? Junk in, junk out. Good stuff in, good stuff out. In that regards, and that's from our mental, our physical, our emotional, all these type of things. So that's why my personal nutrition has been sharing with me. Yeah, yeah. Joseph, why the face, man? We're talking about trying to get you healthy, wealthy, and well. I'm still Don. I'm trying to lose my COVID-20. I got to get back. When we was all stuck, we was eating way too much and baking and cooking and all that good stuff. But it was really great because we stopped doing the fast food. We really start honing in, eating wholesome meals. I was eating 3, 4 square meals a day. I'm like, I don't eat this much, and my body didn't know how to react. a good square meal. But I think it's so important. It really is. Don, wow, wow. What would you like? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the really amazing side effects of getting my gut health in order is there is no intent for me to lose any sort of weight. I've never really been large, but I lost a
Right.
good 20 pounds just from, getting my gut
Wow.
health in good order. There are a tremendous amount of studies. Like I said, this is a new area of science, this microbiome science, that
Uh-huh.
are directly linking the bacteria that we nurture on account of what we're eating to weight
Mm-hmm.
gain. So they can take the
Yes.
bacteria from an obese mouse, put it into a smaller mouse, and within a couple of weeks, they start to exhibit those same characteristics. They start to gain weight, and they can transfer in the other direction and cause the obese mouse to lose weight. And they've done these types of trials in human beings as well. It has everything to do with what we're eating. We're training our microbiome to process foods
Mm-hmm.
and energy in a certain way that cause things to sort in
Yes.
a certain way as
Yes.
well.
Bec-
So we
yeah.
are what we eat.
Yes. Really stop the stinking eating, Marty. You will not play on my words. My and stop the stinking thinking. Come on. Yes, yes, but you're absolutely right because when we eat bad, we in America already have an obesity problem, and especially in our Black and Brown communities because we have not been eating healthy in so many times. And you're right. When we do eat properly, we will find that shedding weight or that unnecessary fat and all that does will allow us to get us back into the right situation and physically get us to our ideal weight, get us to I find yourself having a lot more energy. We're thinking better. We're more focused. We can accomplish more tasks. We're willing to get up and put in the work. And it's very, very important that we do make sure we are eating healthy, we're eating right, and that we're on the right path to this whole thing of health and wellness. Man, thank you so much. What again? Now, how can we get your book? Can you throw that book back up for us again, Daryl? So we can. How do we get your book?
Yeah, it's available where you find books. So if you go online and search for How I Cure My Silent Reflux, it will pop up. You'll find it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, Walmart, etc. So, the book, I really tried to unpack all of my experiences over 15 years and not just talk about the
Hmm.
science, which I started to geek out on a little bit, but also share, these mental health issues. I had no idea these things were
Yes.
related until 15 years later. I had a reason for
Right.
everything, right? Okay, my job is changing and this stress is happening. But once I got my gut health in order, almost like that, some of the mental health
Wow.
issues and things started to evaporate.
They do. I do. So I love this topic. My mindset has been shifted in regards to my eating habits. This discussion is confirmation for me. Yes, that's right, LaDon. It's confirmation. It really is that we have to do a better job. I like how you illustrate even in the book. How you talked about, you gave the various symptomologies, how acid reflux affects the quality of life. You go through the quality of life categories, sleep disturbances, and you go through all that, breathing difficulty, overheating, coughing, muscle spasms. You talk about social challenges, hoarseness, clearing of your throat, belching, limitations on daily activities. You talk through health issues, chest pains, excessive mucus, postnasal drip, gastric pains, diarrhea, difficulty swallowing, breathing difficulties, choking episodes. You talk about food and drink issues. Again, the indigestion, eating problems, emotional disturbances. And I highlighted that in my book. It's emotional, hear me loud and clear, emotional disturbances that comes on, anxiety, apathy, behavioral changes, depression. All of these things are as a result of that can happen from poor digestive systems and acid reflux, and all these other things. And so, God, it is so imperative that we look at those things as well. You are what you eat. Change up that diet. And I'm so glad that you have this because I do talk about that all the time. Those who come in here who talk about their depression, talk about their anxiety. I want to know, what are your sleep patterns? What are you eating? What are you drinking? Are you doing alcohol? What are your medications that you're on? Because all of that is a direct correlation to your mental health and wellness, and it comes out in so many different ways. And who would have thought it would come out in the form of acid reflux or even the silent reflux, and with this absolutely amazing. Don, before we take off, are there last words that you would like to share with people along your journey, that one of the most eye-opening experiences, that maybe you learned along this way?
Yeah, there are so many. We could talk for probably hours. One of the more shocking ones was this. So for 15 years, I turned my air conditioner down to 69 degrees every night with the fan blaring, because in the middle of the night I would overheat and I'd wake up in a
Right.
complete pool of sweat related to acid reflux. Had no idea. For 15 years, I kicked my wife in the middle of the night with muscle spasms that I didn't really realize I was
Wow.
having. Again, direct side effect of B deficiency, magnesium deficiency, which are common issues with acid reflux.
Right.
I mean, I can just go down of just things I had no idea were related.
Right.
Guys, if you're having a poor diet, which the vast majority of us do, don't go down this path. Start eating more veggies, more fruit. If you're not having any of these issues, just make that little tweak, and hopefully you can avoid them.
Wow. I love it, telling us to eat more fruits and vegetables and that type of thing. So for our followers that need to follow you, that's everyone who's listening. Y'all, please like and share this. This is such valuable information. In fact, we're going to do an encore performance tomorrow night, Daryl. Hint, hint, hint. Because we need to get this word out. We need to get the word out. How do we follow you in your social media as well as your website? How do we get a hold of you? Oh, are we frozen there? Hold on. 1 2 1 2 1 2. Don, can you hear us?
Yeah, you can find me at theacidrefluxguy.com. I'm very active, probably the most active on Instagram.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
There we go. You're coming, kind of going in and out, but we have it at the acid refluxguy.com. Yes. Mine does that too. So
how about now? Can you hear me?
Okay, so definitely we have the acidrefluxguy.com with that, and we are so glad that
the acidrefluxguy.com. The most active probably on Instagram. You can follow me at
There we go. Now I see you. Can you hear us now?
Sorry about that. I just had a little blip there.
Yeah.
Just, you can follow me on theacidrefluxguy.com. I've got several articles about gut health and things that people, chances are, because upwards of 30% of people in North America in particular are dealing with some form of reflux on a at least weekly basis. Or I'm most active on Instagram. You can find me at the Acid Reflux Guy.
Excellent. Don, again, we cannot thank you enough. Thank you again for coming out and coming on here. I do another show with some doctors. I would love to have some of them on there too, and bring you back another time in the near future. Let's talk about this and even what they're seeing in their private practices and everything as well. But again, Don, thank you so much for joining us and sharing this valuable information. Y'all, please like and subscribe and go to the acidrefluxguy.com and the Acid Reflux Guy on Instagram. How I Cured My Silent Reflux by Don Daniels. Please, y'all, if you get any book this year, this is one of the must-have books to get and to also give them as gifts. So we need you to not to buy one, but buy three. Buy one for yourself and two to give away to other people. That's how we do it here, because we want to be supportive of everyone and of great information that you have. So again, I encourage you, please buy this book from none other than the Acid Reflux Guy himself, Don Daniel. And we want you to buy not one, but at least two, one for yourself and one as a gift. Again, my name is Martina Sellers. I am your mental health hygienist here on the Mental Health Matters with Marty show. And again, please check out our website at mentalhealthmarty.com. There you will find lots of merchandise to support you along your mental health journey to health and wellness. The t-shirt I have on tonight is one that you will find on there that says speak up, speak out, and live. Daryl, do we have the t-shirt of the month that we're showing up there with mental health? If not, we'll have that on our next. Okay, we do not. Thank you for sharing with me. We'll make sure we have that for you. But again, get this one. This is a good one. Speak up, speak out, and live. Really, my producers in my ear tell me to stick with the script. Anyway, the script says check out our website, our podcast at Mental Health Matters with Marty, and leave us a 5-star rating if you are an Apple listener, and give us a review as well. We're coming back in 2 weeks with some great new episodes. But become an I Matter member of Mental Health Matters with Marty by texting I Matter to 855-717-1272. Yes, please do that. And again, you can get this t-shirt. I'm off script, Daryl. Don't be mad. And anyway, thank you for joining us again for another exciting edition. Again, we cannot thank Brother Don Daniels enough for how I cured my silent reflux. Please, please, please go to Amazon and those other book places and buy that book. We highly recommend that. In this journey called life, too many of us are suffering in silence in the shadow of shame. But as we say each week, we want you to speak up, speak out, and live. And always remember to enjoy your life. See you next time.